For 6 years, America tuned in every week to watch Father Knows Best, the show that seemed to capture the perfect family life. Robert Young's Jim Anderson was the calm, wise father everyone admired. Jane Wyatt's Margaret was the steady, loving mother, and their children Betty, Bud, and Kathy were what every parent wished their kids could be. Yet behind the smiles, laughter, and warm family lessons, the reality of what went on behind the scenes was darker than anyone watching could imagine. The story began in 1949 as a radio program created by Ed James. At the time, there were nearly 20 other family shows competing for listeners, but Father Knows Best outlasted them all, running for 5 years and nearly 200 episodes. Its success came from its quiet realism and strong writing. James wrote over 100 episodes himself, crafting a portrait of middle-class America that people wanted to believe in. Even as television began taking over, the show thrived, broadcast not only across the United States but on 39 Canadian stations as well. Sponsors like Maxwell House and General Foods stayed loyal, and by 1951 the program had one of the highest ratings of the year. In 1953, Robert Young teamed up with producer Eugene B. Rodney to bring the Anderson family to television. Together they founded Rodney Young Productions and poured $40,000 into building a detailed house set on Stage 11 at Columbia Pictures. The design allowed cameras to move freely, an innovation for the time, and each episode cost about $25,000 to film. They worked efficiently, always keeping 17 episodes ready to air. When the television version launched in 1954, the father figure changed dramatically. On radio, Jim Anderson had been sarcastic and impatient. On television, he became kind, calm, and intelligent, the first portrayal of an emotionally stable, wise father that audiences had ever seen on TV. This transformation mirrored post-war America's desire for reassurance and moral strength at home. Casting the new family wasn't easy. Robert Young was the only holdover from the radio version. Jane Wyatt, blacklisted earlier for protesting government anti-communist investigations, took on the role of Margaret Anderson, and Father Knows Best revived her career. Billy Gray won the role of Bud because he played his lines straight rather than trying to be funny. Lauren Chapin, just 8 years old, was chosen as Kathy, nicknamed Kitten, for her natural innocence and lack of acting experience. Her long workdays, often 16 hours, were filled with rehearsals, filming, and tutoring under a tent on set. What no one knew was that at home she lived in constant fear. Her mother was an alcoholic. Her father was abusive and began sexually assaulting her when she was a toddler. While millions of viewers adored her as the cheerful little girl of the perfect family, she was enduring trauma that would haunt her for decades. When the show first aired on CBS in October 1954, the network made a disastrous scheduling choice. They placed it at 10:01 p.m. on Sunday nights, far too late for the families it was meant for. Despite winning 4 national television awards and glowing reviews, it struggled in the ratings. Its sponsor, Kent Cigarettes, canceled its contract after 13 episodes. But something extraordinary happened next. Fans flooded CBS with thousands of letters begging for the show to return. It was the first time in television history that a public campaign had successfully saved a series. NBC saw the passion of the audience and, with sponsorship from Scott Paper Company, revived the show in March 1955. With the new Wednesday evening time slot, Father Knows Best soared to success, reaching 19 million households by 1956 and becoming one of the top 10 shows in America. Behind the wholesome illusion, however, Robert Young was falling apart. He had battled depression and alcoholism since the 1940s, long before he became television's ideal father. During filming, he often drank to steady his nerves, sometimes arriving on set intoxicated. His wife, Betty, struggled to keep his behavior hidden from the public. Despite his condition, Young rarely missed work, performing his lines with flawless warmth while fighting despair inside. He was living the opposite of the man he portrayed, America's most stable father masking his private torment. Lauren Chapin's life mirrored his pain in a different way. After the show ended in 1962, she was 17 and typecast as the sweet little girl no one could see as anything else. Her abusive home life worsened, and by 18 she was drinking and using drugs. Addiction consumed her. In 1967 she was arrested for check fraud, beginning 3 years of jail time and psychiatric hospitalization. She fell under the control of a heroin dealer, who forced her into prostitution to pay for drugs. In her lowest moment, she attempted to cut off her own hand with a meat cleaver, desperate to escape the pain. Only after a long recovery and near death from hepatitis and encephalitis did she find a turning point. In 1979, at a Los Angeles church, she turned to faith and began rebuilding her life. She later became a counselor and worked in charitable causes, using her story to help others heal. Robert Young's reckoning came much later. On January 12, 1991, at the age of 83, he attempted suicide by carbon monoxide poisoning in his garage. When the car failed to start, he called for a tow truck. The driver saw the setup and called the police. When officers arrived, Young admitted he wanted to die. His wife, also drunk, told them he had asked her to join him in a suicide pact. That moment forced him to face his illness. He entered psychiatric treatment, began therapy, and later became a public advocate for mental health awareness. He helped establish the Robert Young Community Mental Health Center, determined to ensure that others would not suffer in silence as he had. Billy Gray, who played Bud Anderson, faced his own downfall after the show. In 1962, he was caught with a small bag of marijuana seeds in his car. Although it was barely enough to smoke, the charge ruined his reputation. He spent 45 days on a California prison farm, where he was beaten by another inmate. When he was released, his talent agency dropped him immediately, and Hollywood turned its back. While actors like Robert Mitchum had survived similar arrests with their careers intact, Gray was permanently branded as a delinquent. Years later, film critic Leonard Maltin mistakenly described him as a real drug addict in a review of the 1971 movie Dusty and Sweets McGee. The false claim remained in Maltin's film guide for more than 2 decades, costing Gray countless opportunities. In 1998, Maltin publicly apologized after Gray filed a libel suit, but the damage had long been done. Despite everything, Father Knows Best remained a cultural symbol of the perfect American household. The laughter audiences heard wasn't from a live audience, but from a mechanical box invented by Charles Douglas, filled with hundreds of pre-recorded laughs. Producers selected each chuckle and giggle to make the show feel warm and spontaneous, even as its cast members lived through deep loneliness and pain. The Anderson home set, with its real kitchen appliances and cozy decor, became a kind of sanctuary for the actors. They ate breakfast there, stored food in the refrigerator, and tried to feel like a family even as their own lives were crumbling. The illusion worked. At its peak, the show reached 40 million viewers weekly.